Yo, what's happening, baby? This is the Flaming Sword, and I'm Kamsin Khan. I remember back when I was like 41. I'm 44 now. Back when I was 41, I was having a conversation with a motherfucker. Some cliche ass conversation about snitching or some shit like that. A conversation that goes on a lot. But through the course of that conversation, I had a thought in my head that I was dealing with the same mentality, the same understanding of life, the same principles that I had since I was like a kid. And I was offended with myself because I consider myself a man of wisdom, a man of reason, a man of logic. So I found it offensive to myself that I was still running around as a 41-year-old man with the same reasoning and principles that I had as a child. The same shit that I was taught as a child. I always liked to think of myself as a man of reason and wisdom, but at that time I realized I've actually made no progress. So what I did was I took myself on what I call a second childhood. Basically, I took everything that I knew and just threw it out the window. And I became what people always said. If I knew what I knew now when I was a child, I put myself back in the child's place with an understanding and wonder for the world, understanding that I ain't no shit, but also understanding that I had tools to work with to evaluate everything from a perspective more enlightened than when I was taught these things as a kid. Because a lot of the shit that I was taught as a kid don't make no motherfucking sense nowadays. You know what I mean? 10 Commandments. How did Moses get 10 Commandments when the zero wasn't created until after Islam? Number zero was created by Islamic scholars. Mathematicians, I mean. So how did they come up with 10 commandments when there was no such thing as a zero? How did they come up with 12 disciples when you need a zero to get to 10 to make it to 12? You have to understand that different counting systems. They got different astrologies, different mechanisms for all that shit. I try to say it before, like they didn't think back then like we think now. They didn't think 60 minutes is an hour. They didn't think 12 months is a year. They got different counting systems and everything. So how can we walk through this world with the understanding that, you know what I'm saying, what we were taught as children is something that we should be carrying into adulthood? Now, me, myself, as a child, I don't think that I was a bad child. I think that I was raised around men. My father kept me with him all the time. And I was around the dudes who groomed him. And I also have to thank for that, for my mentality as a youth to the 16 L's and my association with disciplism. Them 16 L's, Consequences were swift if you violated those. You know, you'll fuck up your whole status in the mob just by violating one precept. You know, you would take 10 steps back. That shit was real and it was dire, and you had to adhere to that shit and present yourself in a way that was consistent with them 16 L's. Motherfuckers saw them 16 L's in you. And even then, I segued into Islam by the time I was like 23, 24. So it's easy for me to think that, you know what I'm saying, oh, I'm enlightened. But my base knowledge was still based off of the same shit. So the main thing that I'm trying to say, you're welcome. The main thing that I'm trying to say is that if you are an adult like me, a man like me, or a grown woman, and you're still evaluating your life, your decisions, your opinions off of stuff that you were taught as a child or as a youth, then somehow or another you're going to end up on the wrong slot. You were taught those things that you were taught so that you can end up in the wrong slot. You were taught the things that you were taught by people who understand what belief in those things and practical application of those things mean. You have to understand that you are being programmed. Well, I don't know about the Matrix and all that shit, but you are being programmed. You have been programmed. And you should be offended with yourself for allowing yourself to be programmed and allowing so much of your life to be occupied according to that program. You can program yourself. You can create your own code of ethics. You can create your own mentality. You can create all of that on your own. Because we are, you know, that kid with the wisdom that we have now. I can attest to the fact that I am a kid because I put myself in a childhood place as far as learning is concerned. I understand that I am a kid, but I have way more tools to evaluate the knowledge that comes to me than I did as a kid. And that means that I can draw totally different conclusions, totally different strategies, totally different plans from the ones that were planned out for me by the people who taught me the bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully you got something from this little dialogue, these musings. Once again, I'm Kamseen Khan, and this is the Flaming Sword. Be blessed and be blessings.